Ready?
Welcome. It is just at 3 o'clock Eastern Time on Thursday, March 4th, 2021. And welcome everyone. This is the ArcGIS Pro workshop for Panda Consulting. And today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Usually we'll look at data structures. Usually we'll look at editing, going and fixing up your data and such. Today we're going to look at something that's sort of the end result. We're going to look at creating a map. And it's going to be a little bit different in that I'm going to do this without a net, and I'm going to do this for the first time. I have not done this demo before, so it's going to be, it's going to be out of the box. I'm going to see where we're going to and could possibly run into some problems. And at the same time, it's been a long time since I actually had to create a plat book of any sort. So I may ask if, those of you who are here, if there's something I'm missing as far as creating a plat book. But it's about how do you create a map inside of ArcGIS Pro? What are the things you can do? How it differs from ArcMap. And then I'm going to take that map and use that as a template, and I'm going to create what in ArcGIS Pro is called a map series, which used to be the old map book, the developer sample map book, and then a map book, a data-driven pages inside of ArcMap. It's called a map series now. We're going to go and do that. We're going to explore some of that. So I suspect this, just to let you know, do not expect a smooth sort of rollout. I'm going to be making mistakes as we go along, and I'm going to fumble around. I don't have a problem with that because that's probably what you're going to do anyway. And we'll go and we'll experiment. If I'm doing something wrong and you know I'm doing something wrong, tell me. I have no problem with that. And I will rethink things as I go. But that's sort of the goal for this workshop is explore. Let's just explore this. We're not going to hurt anything. Let's just explore and see what changes they've put in here on that. All right. So let us begin. And by the way, you'll see Chris actually has he has his webcam off right now. Chris, why don't you put your webcam on and introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm Chris.
Chris is going to be moderating. He's also, just to let you know, he's also making a secondary recording of this just in case I happen to have any issues with my internet, which I don't have often, but just sort of belt and suspenders. We want to make sure this happens. Chris will also be tracking the chat room. So if you have any questions or have any suggestions or comments, put them up in the chat room while I have it over on the side. I don't pay attention to it very often, and Chris will interrupt me.
I have no problem interrupting him.
Yeah, he has no problem talking back to me at all. So, all right. So let's go ahead and begin. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and create and insert a layout. Inside of ArcGIS Pro, the actual map document is actually called a layout, and it has its own frame. And when we go to layout, the first thing we do is we have to go and choose a size of paper. So let's go ahead and choose, let's do 24 by 36. And it, as usual, will go and show us the actual paper size on here. And again, this is a virtual paper size, and we then go and put all of our applications on here. Some of the very interesting things that are happening here is that the way they've gone and enhanced some of the elements and how you go and input them. So for example, I know that I'm going to have a map frame which contains a lot of the extent for And by the way, this shows me all of my previous map templates that I might have. I had one called ETL and lot production and stuff, but this is the main area I have on here. This is my maps, and this will give me sort of a couple different default extents, and I can adjust these as I go along. But this is my frame, my data frame that I'll be putting on here. And I can go and click on this, and as I draw, I can go in and put a data frame up here. Let's do a traditional sort of plat book one on here. And it will go and it will bring in, everything that I have in that current map document over there. Now, it's zoomed out. Matter of fact, you can see right here, there's a little bit here. I can go and control this by zooming in with this element here. And let's go and zoom out a little bit here. Let's go and go to at least 100% of this. This is the zooming in and out as we're going. So this is maneuvering on the paper versus maneuvering in the paper on here. So on the layout view, when I click over on my layout tab, all right, I have everything from navigating on my layout tab to, going full extent on here, full extent on this, zooming in to the extent of selected features and such on here. I can go and select the elements to be put on here. I also can go and activate between different frames if I have different frames on here. Let's go and get rid of some of these elements in here. For example, I don't need this on here. I don't need this on here. I really don't even need this on here because I'm not going to do any editing in here. I have my overall map. I don't need my adjusting group on here. My points, I'm probably not even going to do my points on here. No construction lines on here. Connection lines, I'm not going to do in here. Probably should have just copied over the ones I really want. I'm not going to include any historic components on here. No historic lots. I do have some lots in here. Blocks, nothing historic here. No subs. Nothing here. I do have lab-ins on here. So let's go and at least zoom to this layer so we can see here's sort of the overall. This is a fairly small county. It's got about 7,000 parcels in it. And we've got a PLSS grid on top of it. The grid extends beyond the county. So it's not exclusive just to the county, but it extends beyond it. So we sort of know what we have here. Let me see what else we might have. That's about it. I really don't care about this either. So I'm not going to have that on there. So it'll give me just an overall general feel for what I have. My data frame, if I go over here and look, let's close these things out. Block subs, easements.
Frank, we do have a question in the chat when you have a moment.
Yes, yes.
Hammer wants to know now if you click on the map tab, it deletes the items from there also, yes?
That's a really good question. It did. It did do that. So one of the things I was thinking I probably could have or should have done was created a copy of a tab just for my layout. All right. And let's do that. Let's go. Let's not save this. And let's be a little smarter in what we're doing this time. Thank you, Tamer. Yeah. It was one of the things, as I was doing it, I was thinking, am I actually deleting and removing it from over there? So let's go and open it this way. And here's where you see all of those old map tabs I had in here. So let's go and clean this up, at least for publication. All right. And let's start. This is my editing document. And maybe I should just reference it that way. And this is my editing map. All right. And now let's go and copy this, or excuse me. Let's go in here and insert a new map document. And this will be my publication map. By the way, this is map units are defined by the coordinate system of what we first put in here. All right, so let's go and take our tax polygons and we will copy that layer and bring them over here and paste them in here. So there's my tax polygons. Let's take my lots and copy those and paste them over to my publication. Let's move them below there. Let's do subs also and paste them over here. Move them down. And let's do also those PLSS. All right. And just to show you there they are. Interesting, these PLSS look like they have the vertices on them. Let's go and eliminate that so it doesn't show the actual vertices on our PLSS areas. All right, let's go and save this. Now let's go and insert a new layout. This new layout, let's make it the architectural D. And now when we go in here and we go to do this, we have our editing map and we have a lot of different maps in here. We have our publication map. Let's go and put that down here. All right, and this will have the symbology that is originally shown on here. All right, so is that cleaner? I think it's cleaner to go and set it up that way. We're really not copying the data. We are just taking and referencing the data in a more simplistic map document that we're having. And as you can tell from here, it doesn't matter all the documents, the map documents that you have in here. You can clean them up later as you go. But right now for this, we're not going to do that. I see Mark also had a suggestion that you can drag and drop them between the map documents. And Mark, you're right. You can do that. By the way, one of the reasons why I just copied is because on these layers, if I actually look at the properties, there's actually definition queries set against them. And I wanted to maintain those definition queries as I was going. All right, so now we get into what do we want on this map document, at least in this initial element on here. By the way, we can go to the properties of this map frame, and it will allow us to go and format this, for example, to put things like whether or not that frame is visible or whether the overall frame is visible, whether or not there's any constraints on it, what the sefferent is, whether there's a border on here or not. We can say, don't put a border on here. All right, leave it no border at all. Whether or not there's a background color placed against this, we can go and put that color in here, or whether there's shadowing elements on here. We can also look at the placement of this, and this I have to share with you, going back old school, this reminds me an awful lot about ArcPlot, and that you actually would go and be able to go and place exactly where this data frame is, the width of it. So maybe we wanted this to be 26 inches wide, and maybe we wanted this to be 21 inches high, that leaving an inch and a half. And our positioning, this is the positioning in the lower right corner. And we're going to position it over 1 inch. And we're going to position it up actually an inch and a half on here to go and position it exactly where we want that one corner to be, and whether or not it's a rotation on the data frame. So with every one of these elements that we're going and placing inside of here, and let's get off of that, we can see whether or not there's things like a data frame around it, where the positioning is, all of that. It's a really nice way of making sure that it's put in place. I'm going to rethink this frame on here. I'm going to go and put actually a very small, maybe just a 1 point frame on it. All right, just so we can see where this thing is. The next thing is north arrow. We want to go and put a north arrow on here. Again, we can see sort of the standard type of north arrows. I can tell you I tend to like a compass rose if I'm going to put a north arrow on here. But, and this is something that we've been going through, some of us have been going through the ESRI MOOC on cartography. The question you have to ask is, do you need a north arrow? Because one of the things they impress on here is every element that you put on your map, think about whether or not you really need it on here, or whether it's just superfluous because you've always done that. I mean, do we need a north arrow? Are we going to have anything in here which is not facing due north all the time? Possibly, possibly not. I'm just going to go in and say, well, let's just go and put a north arrow in here. And I like the fact that now what we have is we have these automatic guidelines that are automatically being generated, and they're going to show us where something is, and so that it lines up exactly with other elements that are already placed in here. So in this case, again, I now have this, and I'm on the properties, and I can say, well, where is this thing exactly placed? Maybe I want this to be 2.5 inches and 2.5 inches high on here. So I can be a little bit more in control on this, and maybe I want this to be 34 inches over. So I'm not just sort of eyeballing this, and I want this to be 3 inches up. 3 inches up from where it was before. Again, the symbology, I can go and change sort of where it is and what it is and that sort of thing. Let's just leave it at this. Every one of these elements, again, we can go and place it exactly where we want it to place. The next thing is I want to go and put our logo on there. All right. So let's go and add an image. So I see here all these additional surrounds, all of these. Where's there an image? Here's the image picture. All right. And I actually have an image here that I can go ahead and use. And All right, go ahead and put that. Maybe I'll put that up here. So you can see there's our logo on there. And same thing, I can go and set where it is, how big it is. It does have the aspect ratio, so it maintains the aspect ratio. Maybe I want this to be 2 inches wide on here. Positioning, maybe I want this to be 33 inches over. And leave it at that. By the way, zooming in and out, all I'm doing is using my scroll wheel here to go and zoom in and out. Now what's the next thing I need? Maybe I need a title for here. So I can go and put, there's rectangular text in here, there's polygon text, and there's just regular straight text. So rectangular text would be areas where you might have multi-line components on here. Let's just go and put a piece of standard text here. And let's go here and say test plat map. All right. And I can set the position of it, height of it. I can go to the symbol and tell it what symbol is this and how big is this. Maybe make this 24 points high and apply it. Maybe that's not the smartest thing to do here. Let's make it 36.5. All right, again, it's pretty simple, very similar to ArcMap, but here's where we start seeing other elements in here. What happens if I want to put a legend in here? Or let's put a scale bar in here. All right, I can pull down which scale bar I actually want. Yeah, let's go ahead and use this scale line here and define our scale bar area. If we zoom in on here, we can see the placement of it, that it's 4 inches wide, 1.5 inches high. Let's just make it 1 inch high on here. All right, the position of it, again, this reminds me so much of early ArcInfo as far as where its placement and such. But as we go back through this, we start saying, okay, do we want a border on here? This is basic formatting on here. Here's where we used to have issues with it. Let's say I want to go and have it change as my scale changes, which is what this is going to do. I can tell it to adjust the division value, which to me you should never do. You should always let it be a set division and just change the scale. So you would change the number of divisions that are associated on it. You would go and change what the marks are, what the numbers are. Let's go in here, scale bar frame, the map units. Let's make them feet. And let's keep it at miles in here at this scale. Back here, number of division values on here. So that's 1.5 miles. Maybe we make this 2 miles on here, make it something a little bit more consistent on here. So every 2 miles, and it's going to adjust the number of them as this comes through here. whether or not we show a division beforehand or not. Go ahead and do that. Where we place the individual text, whether it's above or below the bar, something like whether we use fractions or non-fractions. All right, again, very similar to what used to be an ArcMap. So let's go and let's put on a legend now. This is where it really starts becoming different from what we used to have inside of here. And by the way, notice as I'm adding things to this map document, over in my table of contents, I can see them being added every single time, so that I now have access to every single one of these. If I wanted to go in there and modify the north arrow, as I click inside of this north arrow, it then automatically selects it, and I can then go and set the properties of that. Same thing with the picture or the title text, scale bar, or the legend here. When I open the legend, it now allows me to go and perform additional things here. I can click on any one of these layers, all right, and I can do things such as, if I double click here, I can tell whether or not it's showing a group number, what the group name is on here, whether it's got a heading on here, whether it's labeling or labeling that, and whether or not how it's actually describing this on here. If I go and zoom in on this, I can begin to see sort of the indications on this. So let me get into here and indents and where they are, whether this is kept in a single column or not. No. There's the text symbols on here. There supposedly is a way. I guess I still have to go back to here and change the symbology here to be able to change what it's actually saying. So if I click on my symbology here, I can then tell whether or not I have a single symbol. And in this case, I'm just going to make it no color with that there. And as I do that, I can go back to my layout and see it's actually changed it there. I can also change, again, it's reflecting back. I can change what this says. So instead of saying tax polygons, I can say tax parcels in here. Going back to my symbology again, I can change here what the actual patch is that's going to be showing here. So it now is showing as an odd patch here, and it reflects over here for it. All right. So it's going to be reflecting exactly the symbology on there that it's showing. Let's zoom in here a little bit and start seeing and modifying some of this. The labels are actually showing a multi-line labeling that's going on here. And we're going to experiment and look at that a little bit further. Let's go and change these. Make these lots a subdivision. Make this subdivisions. And make this public land survey system. So when we go back here, we can see that the lots in a subdivision are still showing me the headers. The header is this grouping on how it's actually grouping in there. We can go in there and say, let's turn that off. The label or layer name we can turn off and on. That's showing these individual elements in here. All right. I can also change the way this is shown, whether the patch and then the description or label, or maybe I want it changed where I show the individual description and then I want the labels after them. Chris, do we have any comments coming in?
We do have a couple. Tamara says, is there a way to make a double border in Pro around the map?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep,
then
we'll go ahead and show that.
Tori asks, any way to add a little buffer space on the left? No way to draw a border on that.
Okay. Okay, let's see if we can do. Again, make sure that you understand that this right here, this is sort of the handles and the construct for the legend, but we've got no border on the legend that I'm aware of. See? So we don't have a border, but we can put a border on here, just sort of to let you know on here. And let's look at the lots in the subdivision here. And let's go a little bit more on here. Again, we can do a label description and a patch. We can change these things around how it's done. We can also tell it that to take everything that's in and under this layer to keep it in a single column. So it will make sure that everything on one line is in exactly the same column on here. Let's go to the subdivisions. Subdivision, let's turn off the header. We don't need to see that in there. Whether we have the label in here. We also want to take and redo this as far as the whether or not we have the seed on there. So the question, Tamara asked the question, is there a way to go and put a double border around there? And let's go and see. So under the formatting here, we would have a single border on here. It would be a symbol. And we can put on here a single stroke, double stroke here. There is offset. There's a dash on here. Under the output, if we do an offset, so like most symbology inside of ArcGIS Pro, it uses this same 3-tab approach to it, in which we have a standard gallery that we can choose from. We have the individual layers and we symbolize those individual layers. And then we have also a structure where we can add new structural elements on it. And this has right now, these has some defects on it. Let's go and create a new stroke layer so that we have 2 layers there. And let's take the offset here and take the dash off of here, and we'll go and modify these. So we go and add 2 lines on here, and on this line, actually offset it here, like this. A little bit more, and apply that on here. You got it, Tamara? So now when we go in here, let's look at this thing. We do have offset, and that second offset line, we actually had the rounding on it. So that, again, we had the rounding on there as far as how it was set up. And that was part of our offset and how it was handling that offset. Does that get you? Good? Okay. All right, so the other questions we had a question regarding, well, let's go back here to the subdivisions and let's go and make this make the symbology on here so it's just a single symbol. Let's go in here. We can actually just remove that and just make this it's probably good enough. All right, so now we have those individual subdivisions, and to go back here to the legend, that's actually what we're seeing in here. If in fact we find that, you know, maybe we shouldn't be going and having something in the legend because it's obvious anyway, for example, the public land survey system, that's pretty obvious what that thing is. I could just turn that off and it won't even appear inside of the legend. So you want to think about what your symbology is, what you really need on here. On, for example, on these lots on here, right now I've got it showing me actual vertices on here. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to delete. Again, I'm going to go to the structural tab here under the properties and tell it to just delete that extra marker on here and applying that. Now when I go back here, I don't have that actually appearing any longer as far as those extra vertices on the end of it. One of the things I was curious about is if I go in here, and one of the things about ArcGIS Pro is if I go and, for example, make the elements inside of this layer, if I have them become transparent, is that reflective inside of here? And I think it is now reflective of here. I also realize I have uncategorized here, which is more of a just sort of for editing purposes. And the reality is I don't want to see that. In my legend and my symbology, if I don't want to see this all other values on here, it's under the more option to say all other values. And it will turn that off. No, turn it off over here. And I go here, it also turns it off here. So it's all coordinated and referenced in there. Let's see, if I show the count, it shows me the count here, but I can't get the count to appear over here right now that I'm aware of. I don't think I can, which is one of the things I've always wanted to do. Let me see how many of these things I have in here. But this is getting a little bit better. Maybe I want to go and resize this so that everything appears in a single column instead of being sideways as it was before. And then let's go and see about moving this. Making it here. All right. Anything, Chris?
Frank, are you able to show count in the legend?
You know, that's interesting. Again, this is I'm discovering things as I'm going here. So let's go in here. Let's go to a legend here. Is there a way to go and show the count? Oh, look at this. Look at that here. And I can show whether or not I can show it with my individual, parentheses here. I can show with thousands if I have more than 1,000 in here. So if, for example, with lots, I can show how many are in there. And this is where it gets interesting because not only do I have those features, but I can also say, only show these features, only show these things inside my legend if it's in the visible extent. So I can click on that, and right now I don't have any of those other elements being displayed inside of my current map extent. So as I zoom in here, and I would probably be smarter to go in and figure out how do I set my zoom of here. There is a layout, navigation. I can go in, zoom into there. They used to have a layout view and a paper view, and I still haven't figured out how to go and do that. I'm on my layout. How do I zoom to a certain area in here? And is it as simple as, no, maybe not. As orientation. Thank you. Well, I thought it was activated. Maybe not. There you go. Thank you. So now that I've activated it, all right, so let's go back to layout and go back here. And as I do this and zoom up, it shows me how many rights of way are in my current view, how many lots are in my current view. So let's go and do the same thing with parcels and show the count in my current view. All right. And there we go. We have that. And let's do the same thing on subdivisions, show the count in our current view. And I can share with you that is something that in ArcMap we were trying to do for so long and couldn't do it. Now look at what's happened to my scale. Let's go to the scale and let's see again at adjusting. Maybe change it from miles to feet on here. Number of divisions, the marks, the height. Where do I set the width of a division here? Oh, division value. So make it 1,000 feet on here. Just the number of divisions. I have it set up to have one before and after. I really don't want that. So one division before. Is it 100 feet in there? All right, so a little bit more capable. All right, so if we go back to layout and we activate on the map frame and activate that, and then zoom out a little bit, that changes. And go back here to the layout, and this changes the count on here. I really don't like this. So let's go and do the patch and then the label. Same thing. So we keep them all the same. All right. This isn't bad. One of the things I want to put in here now is I want to put in maybe a list of the subdivisions sort of in a text box over on the side. So it shows me not just how many subdivisions are in there, but more information about those subdivisions that are included on this individual page, on this individual map. So I can go back here, and that's called a table frame. And again, I can put that in here. And now it will ask me, okay, what table do I want to be using? I want to be using the subdivision table. And now it's starting to ask me, okay, well, what values do you want? I don't care about the stated area or the calced area or the subtype on here. It's on here. I definitely don't care about seeds and whether it's a seed or not. On here. So let's query the visible rows, show the properties of the rows, sort of how wide the rows are, what they're displaying here. So let's look at what this thing is giving us right now. It's giving us all these individuals, and these are multiple of this. So this has 71 subdivisions, so there must be multi-part in here, excuse me, not multi-part, individual parts for each of these on here. So from multiples, let's see if we have on the table frame, do we have the ability to go and say, here, spacing, how it's sorting them, just the columns and the fonts, just the frame columns on here. I wonder if we have the ability to go and tell it to remove duplicates. No. Width, no. Visible. Name. Subdivision list. All right. Query the visible rows. No, I don't think that's it. I was hoping there would be something in here which would allow us to go and remove duplicates on this. Sort by name, ascending, case sensitive. All I see is that name field. I wonder if there's any way that you can have it go and do that. I would assume, or I would hope that you can go and do that on here. Otherwise, you've got situations like this, which is a series of these. That might be something that we suggest as an add-in or some new element on here. Frame columns, we can tell it to go and expand this out. It's interesting that it's highlighting these additions on here. Huh. All right. So if I go in here and go to this and then activate that and zoom in a little bit more and then go back out. It still has duplications of some of these. All right. Any other questions?
Tori said vArcade unique functions will do it.
So Tori, where would I see that? Subdivisions, and that's it in here. So
I don't know. It says the table attribute dynamic text function, and you have to go to expression builder and unique feature dot whatever.
right. Question
I don't know where it is in
I
there.
don't know where to access that in here.
Me either.
That's, if I go and take this off, all it really is, because I only have one column in here. It's just ascending to case sensitive. I'm not quite sure where you would, I don't see an indication for some place for you to go and put on here. Let's look over here at this table, whether there's something here. I don't see anything here. Properties. Nope, that just gives me this over here. Nope. Nope, I don't see it here at all. Sorry. There must be a way to go and do that. On the fields, maybe. Again, I would normally see if I go to symbology, I would normally go and see that on here. All right. All right. Anything else, Chris?
That's all for now.
Okay, good. Let's make it a little bit. That's probably way too big, considering that we might have others that have that. All right. So, what else would we put on here besides this? Once we make it a map series, then it becomes a little bit different on here. So let's talk about map series. There's a couple different ways inside of ArcGIS Pro to create a map series. One is to go and utilize an index layer, which is, in this case, this will be our land, our sectional layer. We can use that as our index layer to go and do that. But there's also a new way of doing this inside of ArcGIS Pro, in that we could go and take and build. Let's go manage our, let's delete all these out. And let's go and create a bookmark. And we'll call that bookmark 1. Call this here bookmark 2, excuse me, bookmark 2. See, I get real fancy with my bookmarks. Call this bookmark 3 on here. And let's go over here and call this bookmark 4. It's enough we need for for going and illustrating this. So we now have a map, the standard sort of template that we want to go and utilize for putting more things in here. And if we want to go and use this template to produce multiple maps, what we can do is either set it up so it automatically generates them for us, or we can just reuse this template over and over again. But let's go and look at, by the way, I'm still looking. Let's go over here to a map series, all right, in which we will go and first we want to enable the map series, I guess, on the layout. Go to properties, map series, and enable it, and tell it what type of a map series we want to go and create. Do we want to create a spatial series, which is the one that has an index layer associated with it? Or do we want to create a bookmark series? Unfortunately, I haven't found where you can combine the two. So it's either one or the other right now, but let's first go and create a bookmark series. All right, and it's going to ask us what do we want to use as our map frame, and it's going to be this map frame that we have here, and we can see all of the bookmarks that I currently have. If I create new bookmarks, it lists them there, but I have to go and tell it to go and create a new page for that bookmark after I've gone and created this. I then also have, well, round the scale to the nearest foot or nearest 100 feet maybe on here. So it now creates a map book series, a map series for every single bookmark that I have here. It's gone and created one for. In this case, this is for all of the subdivisions inside of this bookmark. This is this bookmark. And obviously we haven't said anything as far as our individual labeling that's going on or anything like that. And notice this only has one subdivision in it. And this bookmark, which again only has one subdivision in it. This bookmark, which has 3 subdivisions in it on here. So that wasn't that tough to do. Obviously, there's still some elements in here, such as this, the scale bar and what we're going to set it to and how we're going to get it to adjust and such. But having those 4 on here, well, let's start, once we have a map series, let's start considering some dynamic text inside of here. Chris, you said there's a question?
Jennifer asks, can you seamlessly create a map series document in Pro from a previously created data-driven page document in ArcMap?
It's a good question. I think you should be able to. You should be able to go and bring that layout in. When we go to do insertions in here, when we go to insert, we can insert a new layout. We can also go, if you have an ArcMap map document and you bring it in, I think it also brings in the layout. And if that's the case, it might define that layout. If you have data-driven pages already activated on it, it might bring that in as data-driven page, as a map series with everything set up for you, including things like dynamic text and such. So it's a good question. I wish I knew. Again, I don't produce that many maps anymore, but it's worth a try. Right? It doesn't hurt at all. Yeah. So I just saw something pop up in chat, and I think Paulette just said, yes, it does. I don't think the layout's compatible. Yeah, it does. So, you know, I'm as much as I sort of scowl at Esri and say, I wish you did these things better. I got to tell you, there are some things inside the parcel fabric, or excuse me, inside of Pro, that I'm just amazed by how well they have done with this. As an example, inside of this is a
Frank, it works, except for you got to make sure that your data is not in a personal geo database.
yes, always,
That's what I found out.
Yes.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
So I had to move everything over.
So yeah, because ArcGIS Pro cannot read a personal geodatabase, so you have to put it into a file geodatabase. By the way, just as how do you do that? Go into Arc Catalog. You can't do it in Pro. You have to do it in old school Arc Catalog. Create a new file geodatabase, and then if you're lucky enough, or if you've thought far enough ahead that you created featured data sets, copy the featured data sets over. And what copying the featured data sets over will do is it will go and copy not just those individual feature classes, but if you have any other relationship set up. So if you have, for example, feature link annotation, it will copy that over perfectly. If you have domains set up, it will copy those domains into your new geodatabase. Subtypes, it will copy those over. So if it's inside of a featured data set, it will make sure it copies all those other ancillary elements in there for you. So maybe that's a hint. If you don't have it in a featured data set, put them all into one and then copy that into the new file geodatabase. Just do a copy and paste, and it should bring everything in there for you. But yeah, unfortunately, that's one of the things that it's not easy to go and if you're still using personal geodatabases, we have several clients that are still using them. So it's unfortunate that we can't go and support personal geodatabases anymore. I used to use them a lot. So, but that's, again, really good questions. Like I said, there are some things they've done so well. So some of the things that they put inside of here that are really impressive is once you get into the map series is some of the types of dynamic text that they're actually including and have already set up for you. And in order to go and put dynamic text in, we have this great big A with the lightning. And if I pull it down, it shows me all of the dynamics text that's already set up for me. So for example, if I have credits set up, you know, created by Panda Consulting, all this other stuff. If I have a description set up, there's already a dynamic text for that. Map units, metadata. If I have metadata set up for my data, it automatically will go and I can make that a dynamic text. The name of the map, the reference scales, relative size, all of this, what normally would be map frame metadata that's hidden, it goes, you know, things like spatial reference. What is the spatial reference here? And I can go in and put in the spatial reference. Wow. Obviously that's the wrong size, the wrong text size on here. Maybe I want to go and put it down like a little bit smaller than this to go and see it, but it will put in all of that dynamic text in here for you and give you everything about this. Let's go and just delete that. Here, let's go back to dynamic text. Spatial reference. The map frame, when did it start, end, current. The map frame, the coordinates in the upper left, all these various points in here. You can tell it to give me the coordinates for the center of this map unit, or this map that I'm looking at right now. I can put in north itself. What type of north am I using? Is it true north? Is it, there are conversions. What about system information? When was this thing created or used? Who did it? The layout. When was it exported? What's the name of the layout? What date was it printed? The metadata. Mark just asked me a question here. Can you go back to the text menu for the spatial reference and select only the name as opposed to every detail about it? Let's go and look. So on here on the spatial reference, show the map. Let's go and put it in here. And look at this, Mark. This has everything in here. So can I go in here and just, can I select everything but that? I can, these are tags. I can go in here and select all of these tags and just have that one. Good question, Mark. Yeah, no reason why you can't. Which is a really nice improvement. Again, a lot of things that they've done in here, which is so nice, so much nicer than what they used to have in here. So if I look at the map series, what's the map page on here? In this case, I use bookmarks. So it's just going to tell me the name of that bookmark. But if I go in and change that, it will actually go and put that in here as the page name or the page number or page count. All right, so let's go ahead and just put a page count here. All right, 404. And so you can see then the text and the actual elements on here, put 404 in there. And let's go and make that a little bit smaller. Make that maybe 24 and apply that there. All right, and I'm going to use that because right after this, I'm going to go and change my map series into, instead, I'm going to change it into my index. I'm going to do a spatial map series instead. So let's go ahead and also go and on the map series, let's put the page name here. All right, and let's change that again down to maybe 24 point and apply that on here. All right, and as Mark said, we actually can go in here and change what we're doing in here. We can change the symbology on here, where it's located, you know, what the actual name of this dynamic text is, whether or not it's locked. All right, so this allows us to create something that dynamically, you know, one of the things that a lot of people want is, especially if they're going to go and use this out in a field or something, maybe they want to put a grid on here. So I can go and put a, pulling down the grid, this is on the map frame formatting, I can tell it what grid I want. Do I want it as a measured grid, being coordinate values in here? Do I want that? Do I want it to be mixed in here? Vertical labels, how I want to go and put these labels in here. Do I want a custom grid? These are reference grids. These are MGRS grids. So I can do a lot of different types of grids in here. I can do graticules. Let's just go and put a measured grid in here, and let's put it blue. Wow, it's kind of a blue vertical grid. Our components, our ticks, our labels are here. Our grid lines are this. Let's go ahead and get fancy and actually make these sort of 70% transparent on here, so they're a little bit easier to read. And again, this is going and giving us coordinate values along here, so we might be able to go out and see where we are in certain areas as we're doing that. Again, we want to try to make that as easy as we can, try to make that as invisible as possible on here. So we now have that map series, and let's see if we can go and take that map series and change it so that maybe instead of being a bookmark, let's continue that, and let's use our public land survey system, and we actually have STR in here, and we'll sort it on STR. So with this, we're going to go and utilize every single polygon that's in here. And for each polygon, it's going to use the section, township, and range, the STR. It's going to sort by section, township, and range. And it's going to group it by here, the map extent. We can go in here and say, just make it fit to the nearest 1000 scale on here, and clip to the index feature, so it will clip the parcels if they go outside the sections if we want to. Let's see what else we can do on here. There used to be an option where we could tell it, it might be further on down as we go in here. On the map series, we can tell it page size. There used to be an option where we could tell it that if there was nothing else in here, to not show that page number. Clip to the index, I don't see that here. Let's go through here. And you can see in here, page number is updating itself. And over here, the page number is updating itself every time we go and do this. All right, you can see those where there's a lot of on here. So I probably could have grouped this a little bit differently. I could go up here and I can tell it to go and sort them according to township. Sorting by township. Sort them by section inside of here, by township. I wish I could do that 2 different ways. So now I have sorting them by section. So this is township 4 south, 4 south, and 21 east, 20 east. So I might want to go and have a separate attribute field which combines the township and range, so I can have all the sections in one area show up there. Also wish there was a way to go and do this. I don't see it in here. And maybe something else that we need to go and set on here. But there used to be a way that would allow you to go and say, if it's nothing in here, if there was nothing inside of this page, don't print it out. All right. So we have actually got 386 pages inside this map book. So let's go and share this map book. So we're on the legend. We can go to layout. Let's go and share this map book, which basically is printing it. And we can go and print this out. And I'm going to print it out to a PDF. And down here, there is a map series in here, which says I can print them all, or current pages, or I can select the index pages. I can do selected pages if I only have selected ones, and I can tell it to print it to a file, an individual file. I'm just going to print this to a desktop. And tell it to go ahead and print this to a, this is printing it to a PDF. Let's make sure I tell it landscape, paper size. No, this is actually, I forget what I made it. Anyway, this is just for show.
ArcGIS.
Thank you. Sorry, I've already sent it off there. Thank you. All right. So we've gone through a lot of the exercises in here, and you see me fumble sometimes and just sort of experiment and just sort of, you know, what do we have in here? What do we have? How do we find it out? And I have to share with you that that's the way we discover so much of what's inside of ArcGIS Pro. It's just what I call spelunking. We get in there, we know there's a cave. By the way, that's what spelunking is, cave diving. We know there's a cave. Let's just dive into it. You know, we have a safety rope for us. We don't have to worry about it. We have a safety rope. Nothing's going to get broken on here. And let's just explore. And we find all too often that that's the best way to go and figure out what you can do. There are certain sort of Rosetta Stones, certain things that you always should remember when you're working with any of Esri's products. One is the right click. If you don't know what you can do with something, just right click on it and see, and it will tell you exactly what you can do with it. So for example, if I right click here, it will tell me exactly what I can do with this, how I can do it. I can save this out as a layout file, by the way. If I go to publication and I right click on a layer, it will tell me exactly what I can do with a layer. Right click is sort of, again, the Rosetta Stone. If you want to find something out, you want to just explore a little bit, right click is the way to go and do it. And just be fearsome. Again, obviously, I have no problem appearing as if I don't know everything, because I don't. I'm constantly not only just trying to learn some new things about this, but I'm also recognize that my old way of thinking, my old way of looking at things should constantly be reevaluated. What I learned yesterday, is that still true today? Whether it's with new software, new approaches, is this still valid? Is this still the best way to do things? And you're going to find that's what those of us at Panda, that's instilled in us. We're doing something now. It kind of works. is this the best way to do it? And we constantly challenge ourselves. Is this the only way? And is it the best way? So hopefully you can take that from here. We're about halfway through printing this out to a PDF. We'll see what's in here when we're done. Do we have any questions, any comments, any experience? Anyone who's done map series, what can you teach us about this? I'll stop talking for a while. So Chris, do
Nothing
I
in
have
the chat right now.
nothing? So I see Tamara.
You were gonna say though?
Will Pro make a series with a set of page sizes and set scale and make pages only with the data you choose to show up in the, say, only show pages with mobile homes in them? It's a really good question. I think that there is a way to go and set that. I know you used to be able to do it inside of ArcMap. In ArcMap, there used to be, within the pages, there used to be ways that you can set what they would call page definitions to go and do that. And you would tell it to only go and, you could tell it to only go and let's get to a different area here. Always a lot of empty sections on there. So I'm not sure, Tamara, whether or not all of that functionality came over. I don't think it all did. And in looking at it and exploring it right away, I'm not sure. But as with anything else, you need to look further. You need to look to see whether there's something in here that you can sort of explore in, because as Tori said, there supposedly are ways that you can apply Arcade to this to actually tell it only go and do certain elements in here. I would suspect there is a way to do it, but it may not be completely built into the interface yet. It may not be completely obvious yet how to go and do that. But that's a great question. Yep. Got to do a lot of bit of digging. And I can almost guarantee you're going to have to learn Arcade to do it. I can tell you Arcade is embedded throughout this thing. You will have to learn Arcade. And so just make sure that you start with that understanding that it's going to require a little bit of scripting in order to get to some of these points on here. Anything else? This refreshes it. This goes and sets the size of it, the orientation of it, portrait or landscape. If I go in here, map series, that brings this up. Optional fields. They used to have a thing called page definitions, which I thought was really interesting. I don't see it here yet, but I would.
Google says page queries now.
Page
queries. Spatial map series. Yeah. Do you filter the page based on the map series? Right click on the layer in the contents pane and click properties.
Oh, so if we go here to, here's the map series. So if I go in here and go to not on the list, or if I go to the map frame and I go into any of these and go to properties, I set a definition.
Page query at the bottom.
Page query at the bottom. There you go.
And it says it only applies if there's a series.
Yeah, only applies in map series. It doesn't apply any time else. So if you do have this, then you can tell it to only go and produce this page in the series if it contains something of these, if it contains a subdivision. And so you tell it the layer. Yeah, let's just you tell it the layer, and then you tell it the field to look in. So if that field has a value in that layer, then you can tell it whether it matches or doesn't match. So you can tell it only show the ones that have these in, or only show the ones that don't match this on here, as part of this page query. Thank you, Tori. I was sure there was a way to do it. And you know what? You don't even have to use Arcade to do that. So you
Google
set
is your friend.
Pardon me?
Google is your friend.
It could be, yeah. So in here, I tell it, I want to make sure that I have where it matches this, and it will match against the current map series page name. So that's actually how they're doing it. You've got to have a field in here that matches the name of it. So, yeah, so you want to add another field into here, and that's what it is. Only applied when the map series is enabled. Interesting. Yeah, so there is a way to go and control that and tell it whether or not it's got whether or not you want it to go and be in a certain page is how it is, which means there's one page in the map series, and if you want it to show up in that map series, you have it match it, or have it not match that page series. Interesting. Any other questions? Let's see if my PDF came out and what it actually looks like. It's not done writing. Oh, there it is. Still writing it out. Any other questions? I hope we got something out of this. You know, like I said, I always enjoy going and giving a chance to explore. Like I said, I have no problem exploring when people are watching. We'll do that. So, any other comments, any other questions that you might have? Nothing else in the chat, right, Chris?
Not at the moment.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned a little bit. I know I did. And I'm going to stop the recording now, and we'll wind up posting that in our folder once it's fully encoded. And thanks for attending, and we hope you enjoyed this workshop. If you have questions, would like some more details about anything we discussed during this workshop, or if you or anyone at your organization would like information about training, support, or ways in which we can help you with your GIS needs, please contact me at frank@pandaconsulting.com or call me at 561-691-3277, and we can discuss how we can help you with your needs.